What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Paranormal Rush Hour. I'm your host, Ryan Rush, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that I've been thinking about it a lot lately, actually. It's something I've thought about, though, a lot for the past few years, I guess, ever since I became aware of it. But, it's the Sasquatch involvement in the missing 411 stuff. I don't know what else to call it. Disappearances, I guess. But the Sasquatch involvement, okay, there's a lot of people, man, a lot of people who think that the Sasquatch have something to do with it. I know I have personally talked to a lot of people over the years who assume that the Sasquatch are like responsible for this. And I mean, maybe some of them are. I'm not going to say they're not. Because when you're dealing with something like the Sasquatch, they are extremely intelligent. I mean, they're highly intelligent. You guys, if you've never interacted with them, then you probably don't understand fully what I'm saying about it. But if you have, you probably do know what I'm saying. They are not just some apes running around in the woods, okay? Not. They are smart. These things are every bit as smart as people. So, I mean, when you have something with that level of intelligence, you're going to have an extreme diversity in personalities and whatever. I mean, there's gonna be a big, I don't know, it's the way that they are, okay? I'm trying to think of how to put this, but the way that they are is, it's gonna vary as far as morals and beliefs and things like that because they have all of that. And I mean, they are intelligent enough to be conscious of what they do. So there's going to be a diversity in how they act. I mean, a big one. It's it's a vast diversity because it's just like that with us. It's just like that with people. There is a vast diversity with people. But let me explain what makes some people think that the Sasquatch have involvement in the missing 411. Okay, there's certain cases, like take the Dennis Martin case, which happened back in, I think it was the 50s, like early 50s, up in Cades Cove in Tennessee, okay, in the Smokies. And Cades Cove is a gorgeous place. I mean, it's beautiful. You can go up there and see nature and basically never leave your car. But there are places also that are nice to hike to and things like that up there. Well, this family, the Martin family, I think it was just the boys, just the men and the boys from that family. They were up there in Spence Field, which is up around Cades Cove. And Spence Field is, basically just a big open area. Well, there was another family up there that was picnicking up there, I guess. And anyway, this family's name was actually Martin also, which is kind of strange. And anyway, the Martins started playing. The kids, they had kids like relatively the same age, so they started playing together. And Dennis, he was young, I want to say 5 or 6 at the time, something like that. Anyway, he was very young, and he was hiding behind some bushes. And his dad and grandfather, I think, had both seen him go back there behind the bushes and hide, and they were calling him to come out, and Dennis never came out. And they were like, "Well, I saw him go right there," and so they walked over there, and he was gone, and never found him at all. I mean, I think they found one of his shoes like a very long time after he went missing in a really high elevation too. This just strange stuff, really strange stuff with the Dennis Martin case. Well, it gets even weirder because you have the Key family who went up to, I can't remember which part of the park it was, but anyhow, they wanted to see some bears, I think. It was something like that. And so they had asked a ranger, I want to say, or someone where they could see, catch a glimpse of some bears in the Smokies. And the ranger or whomever told them where to go. So they went up there and they saw wherever they had gone, they saw a hair-covered man, is what they said. And this was left out of the original statement, I want to say. But this hair-covered man had a boy over his shoulder and was walking up into the woods with him. So they assume, a lot of people assume, that a Sasquatch had something to do with Dennis Martin's disappearance. And I can't say they didn't. I don't know. But I do know, and this is one thing that really, it kind of bothers me in a way, but it's really weird too, how they have kind of covered this up. Okay, this is the official story now, from what I understand. The one that they're trying to portray, and I had seen that word had gotten around on this, but they actually have changed what happened in the Dennis Martin case to the family seeing a man pick him up on the side of the road, like saw him get into a van on the road and drive off with him. There's a guy who was a historian, and I want to say may have been like a park employee. I can't remember, but he was some kind of steward of the park or something, of the Smoky Mountains. And this guy had given interviews like ever since the Dennis Martin disappearance. And the first interviews that he gives, and this is on YouTube, you can see this, where he changes his story. Okay, it from like the one that he gave like back in the 70s or something. Okay, he changed his story from no one knowing what happened to him after they saw him getting carried off into the woods to somebody picking him up when he was interviewed later on, like I want to say maybe in the 90s or early 2000s, somewhere around there. But he was a lot older, and he changed his story like completely about this. And I thought that was really strange how that happened. How they're wanting to make it to where there's a conclusion to the Dennis Martin case. And I'm not into that. I mean, if you need to have the facts out there, specifically what it says on the actual reports from when it happened. And that was a weird case. They had so many people searching for that child. I mean, it was strange because the Green Berets showed up in the Smoky Mountains. The Green Berets showed up in the Smoky Mountains. Green Berets don't show up to hunt missing people. They might show up to hunt other things. And see, that's another thing that makes me wonder. The whole thing about the Green Berets showing up. Okay? What's going to prompt them to show up? What would prompt them to call in special forces to come up to a missing persons case? Now tell me that. Especially back in the 50s, when things weren't as near as public as they are now. Things weren't as accepted. Ideas weren't as accepted as they are now. See what I mean? It's like, it seems to me like they were really trying to cover something up. In my opinion, I think that's exactly what they're doing. But, and possibly trying to hunt something down. Maybe this was an isolated case. Okay, maybe it was the only one where there was actual documented Sasquatch involvement. I mean, if that was a Sasquatch, then that's what this case is. Documented Sasquatch involvement, I would say. I mean, what are the odds of that happening same day, you know? And they didn't know that there was anyone missing. That's the thing. And I don't even know if they could tell exactly what it was over the thing's shoulder, but I think they said it looked like a boy, like a little kid. So, I mean, did that happen? I don't know. Did that thing get Dennis? I don't know. Did it assist what got Dennis? I don't know. Is that even relevant at all? Or did they see a Squatch killing a deer and dragging it up a hill? Who knows? But there's some weird stuff about that case. And they had, I mean, psychics and stuff, you know, for years, like coming up there and telling them that he was in a log, he was here, he was there, like just obscure places. And they would go check. They would go check to see if they were right, just because they didn't have any other leads as to what happened to him. And that's strange. I mean, it's just really strange that he got taken pretty much right in front of his family. Like, I mean, basically that's what happened to him. It's scary stuff, you know, there's no question about that. Missing 411 stuff is scary, especially if you're a parent and stuff like that. And I'm not ever trying to scare anyone by bringing any of it up, but I do think we all need to be aware of it happening, because it does happen. There's no question. It does happen. So anyway, the thing with the Sasquatch involvement, though, I mean, is there another case like that? Because I've never heard of one. But the thing is about this, okay, that really makes me wonder about things. I mean, this has caused so much speculation on my part, and I've had a lot of questions ever since then, ever since this occurred. Okay, a while back, and I've mentioned this before, I think, but a while back, all right, all you guys know, most of you know, I have a channel where I have investigated Sasquatch areas, like, and documented things that I've done as far as habituation and things like that go with the Sasquatch that live out here where I live. Okay, they're everywhere these days. It's strange to me, actually, how populated they are, or how I don't know about as far as the population. I don't know if that's grown. It may be the same, but they're just coming in closer to civilization, to populated areas, urban areas, things like that. I've found Sasquatch areas, places with obvious signs of Sasquatch. There are certain structures you can identify their areas by. If you look around and you know what you're looking at, you can tell that they've been there, always. And, you know, I've found these places by schools, graveyards, churches, daycares, neighborhoods. I mean, you name it, apartments, stores. Like if there's a patch of woods right by it, I've seen their things that they have made, structures and things. It's just weird, okay? I mean, multitudes of them on the side of the road. You know, I can drive through these rural areas near where I live and find them all over the place, because you'll see the structures right from your car. And I've actually made a video showing people how I find a lot of the areas that I record and show people. I just made a video of it of me holding a camera, looking out the window of the car, driving down the road, and showing you, okay, there's one right there. That means you could stop in this area and probably go up there and find more stuff. And that's what I have tried to get people to do if they want to learn, the truth for themselves. Because you're not going to believe that they exist just by hearing someone say it. You're not going to have 100% certainty just by hearing someone talk about it. It takes actually seeing it firsthand to know beyond any doubt that something is real. Okay, I mean, even then, it's not easy to it's not easy to believe yourself sometimes, to actually believe what you've seen, because I've questioned my sanity before because of them, because of things that I have seen them do. And I'm going to get into that you'll see what I'm saying. But anyway, their intelligence level is way up there. People don't realize how smart they actually are. And that's because they've been stigmatized as, primates, the missing link, the thing that, might link us to the monkeys. That's what they've wanted people to believe that the Sasquatch are, which is so far from the truth. It's so far from the truth. And yet they are flesh and blood beings. They are. They can be killed. Not easily, but I'm sure. But, they're not immortal, entities. They're physical beings. But they have abilities. They can do things that we can't comprehend, that we don't know how to do. I think we're capable of it. I think we can do the same things if we knew how. But we've been conditioned to think we can't our whole lives. They've designed our society to keep those types of things suppressed within us. So, it doesn't matter. But that's the thing. The Sasquatch haven't been in our society. They've been brought up, by the ways of their elders who have continued to pass this information and this knowledge on, to the generations behind them. So it's not lost like it is with us. Because I think there was a time, especially with the Native Americans and stuff, where people were, they were a lot more spiritual, and they probably could do a lot more things because they weren't led to believe they couldn't. So, I think, they probably utilized their abilities better than most people do these days. I don't know. Anyway, that's just what I think. But there's been some crazy stuff that I've heard about them over the years. And I brought up me doing all that to get to this point, just to say this. A few years ago, I got an email from someone, and I've gotten so many emails over the years from people telling me they know all about this stuff, and they know the truth, and this is the way it is, and all that, not in a bad way. They never say it like that, but people always want to impart their knowledge, I guess, what they think is true. Sometimes, it's pretty accurate, and sometimes it's pretty freaking out there. And this was one of those times that it was pretty freaking out there. I got an email, probably 5 years ago, and this guy who emailed me told me that he knew the truth about this, that it was very hard to believe, but he knew it. And he was also in contact with someone else I know who was one of my subscribers on the other channel, who would correspond with me sometimes through emails. And I still talk to her through the comments and stuff. And anyway, she had emailed me about him telling her this stuff too. And basically what it was, and this guy I think was in Canada. I want to say he was in Canada. but he had some kind of inside information about this stuff. And I was like, I still didn't know a lot back then. Not as much as I do now. I still don't think I know a lot, but I have a better idea of things. I like to think that anyway. But anyway, this stuff was just, it was out there that he was saying. All right, and he was saying this is the truth. This is how it is. And he was telling me things like about the structures and tree bends. Okay, he started telling me about tree bends, like specifically. And that's one of those things that's always been one of the biggest mysteries to me. Like why they bend trees. And you can always tell when a Sasquatch does it because the tree will be bent over and it will be pinned or anchored by something on the top part of the tree. It will be bent over and the top will be anchored down by like a rock or a log or a heavier stick or something like that. Something will be keeping it down on the ground. Okay? That's something I have observed over the years every time that you can tell when it's a natural one most of the time because you'll see several trees bend in that direction if it was a tree that fell and just like clipped some of the tops and brought it with them, brought them with it, you know. That's the way you can usually tell, like if it was something natural. Well, the Sasquatch will make these, and you can tell something pulled this down and anchored it down to the ground somehow. Okay, you'll find them in the most bizarre positioning. Like, I remember one time, and my friend Leonard actually drew a picture of this one. I'm going to put that one in a frame soon because it's one that I really like because I remember it so specifically. Like when I found it, it was one day my middle son and I were driving through the trails on the four-wheeler, and there was a tree I saw over on the side because I remembered it because I had stopped there for a second. And then we drove by the same one the next day, and it was bent. This tree was bent around the trunk of another tree and anchored down with like a log or something like that. It was a massive tree too. Not massive, but it was a large tree. So whatever bent this had some strength, like no doubt. And we found that right like the next day. It was like right there, and I was like, oh man, this was not here yesterday. I knew it. So it was really weird, but Leonard drew a really good picture of it. And anyway, I don't know why I was even mentioning that one now. I got so caught up in telling about it. But it was one of those things you could tell they did it. There's no question. I think I was just talking about how sometimes they're in random, spontaneous, bizarre looking, bent in bizarre ways. But it was really pretty interesting though. It's always interesting seeing how they can do this stuff. Well, I don't know. This guy was talking about the way tree bends will assist. The Sasquatch will come along and bend these trees in these certain areas, and that is to assist the others in coming to the surface because they dwell subterranean until certain times when they come up to the surface. Okay. Now, this was all so out there. I was like, the others, what is he talking about? And he went on to explain that the others are these separate entities that wear black hooded cloaks and have like these white skeleton looking faces, like skull looking faces. And they are like the higher ups in the world of cryptids, I guess. And he said that the Sasquatch will assist them in doing bad things to people and things like that. And I was just like, whoa, man, what is he talking about? like the tree bend, somehow they create a way for these others to get up to the surface. And that's what this guy was saying. Okay, I've never confirmed this myself. I've never seen it. I've only heard of it. And I'm going to tell you why this is really freaking me out these days. Okay. Anyway, he went on to say a lot of other stuff about them and things like that. But I just specifically, I can't find the emails either. I think they got deleted because it was an email address that I'd quit using for that channel. It was like a different server, and I'd quit using that one. And I think that it had stayed idle for so long that those ended up getting deleted. I did, however, find some from that friend of mine who I talked to, my subscriber friend that I talked to, in that email address, in that inbox. And I saw where she was telling me about the stuff that he had told her also. So that let me know that it was the right place, but those were just gone. And it really sucks because I know I took screenshots of them and everything, but I don't know where to begin looking for that SD card. That was 5 years ago. I don't know. One day I'm going to go through them all and find it. And because I really want to read these again. I want to read all of what was said on them, because I know there was a lot of just crazy information on those. And I would like to compare it to what I've heard from other sources now. Okay, this is where it gets really weird though. All right, even weirder than that. Okay, last year, I think it's probably been about a year since I heard about this. Okay, there's these guys who have a channel, the Trail to Bigfoot. Okay, they're from Florida, and it's Chris and Mark are their names. And I know a lot of you guys who follow the Sasquatch stuff are familiar with that channel. Okay, I mean, it's a pretty big channel, and I've known them for a long time. Like, I want to say they started around the same time I did, around that time frame. And I've known these guys since, for the last 6 years or so, and I've watched them and talked to them and all that. And Mark was always with Chris going out. They both went out together and checked all this stuff out and investigated areas in Florida. And, they really went to some cool areas, had some really cool things happen and stuff like that. Well, anyway, I know that he and I used to talk a lot about how these things would happen when you're out there, and how it goes really against everything that you thought you knew. And anyway, Mark had an experience around a year ago, I guess. And Chris, he told me about it because he had watched a video, and I reached out to him to ask him. He had made a video that I watched, and he had started telling about Mark, and something happened to him, and some stuff went on, and all this, and I was like, what happened? And it kind of made me worried because, he alluded to it being something that could affect, your safety and stuff out there. And I was like, well, I do this stuff, so I'd really like to know what it is that he is talking about. And, I asked him what it was, and he told me about what happened to Mark. And then Mark does an interview a little bit later and tells everybody about what happened. I never said anything about it, when it happened to it, when I learned about it. And I just kept it to myself, but it was, it wasn't my place to talk about it. But since Mark did come out on Carrie's show, the Bigfoot Odyssey show that I've been on a couple times, he came out on and talked about it on that show, on his show with Carrie, and or Carrie's show with him, whatever. He talked about it on there, and it was really wild because Chris had told me about what he said, and it sounded exactly like what this dude had told me in these emails. It was like the same thing. And I was like, where did Mark get that? If this, I was like, that is weird. Because he talked about, the story goes, if you're not familiar with it, I'll give you a brief rundown on what happened to Mark. He went out on vacation and rented a cabin like out in a state park down there in Florida. And while he was out there one night, he had a fire going or something, like a campfire, and in front of this cabin, and he saw like red eyes in the woods. And then something comes up and holds him down in his chair, and these things start coming in around him, and he really didn't know what to call them, but he described them as like wearing black hooded cloaks with like skeleton looking faces, is the way he described it, and white like faces. And I was like, what? And so that flipped me out, because that's exactly what this other dude told me the others looked like. Well, Mark was calling these things the masters, okay? And he said that they like invaded his mind with telepathy, I guess, or mind speak, and told him all this stuff about them and about the way things are with this hierarchy of theirs. And the Sasquatch are basically just their assistants or something. They help them on their hunts, or get a better kill or whatever. Anyway, they're into killing people, I guess, for sport or something, according to Mark. And this is what they told him, he said. And he said the reason they told him all this is because the more information that this person had, the victim had, the greater the kill was. So, this is just crazy, though. I mean, he said they would stalk people for years and wait until the time was right or something. I don't know. It sounded really sadistic. I'm not going to lie. Like, the stuff he was saying was crazy. But the guy, in the email didn't go into all that kind of detail that I can remember. But as far as the descriptions of these things and the roles that the Sasquatch would play and the roles that these things had, they were both right on point, like with each other. They corresponded completely with what Mark was saying and what the email was saying. I was like, this is just weird, man. What's up with that? It really, really freaked me out. I was like, what if this guy was really telling me the truth? And I was just like, it sounded so crazy that I, just kind of dismissed it. I mean, I don't think I dismissed it, but it was something that I couldn't fully believe because, I had nowhere to base that on except for what I was just hearing. And I'm one of those people that doesn't really believe something completely until I see it, and most people are that way. And that's understandable. That's our nature. But anyway, that just freaked me out. I was like, man, what is going on? These guys' stories are kind of like corresponding here. So Mark went on to say all this stuff, about, I mean, if you guys want to listen to it, you can check out the Bigfoot Odyssey. I think it's probably his most viewed episode, actually. You can check out the video on Carrie's channel, Bigfoot Odyssey. And it's a really good channel anyway. I mean, you should check it out anyway. But he does a good job with it. And he's a good dude. So anyway, the Mark episode, though, was a lot of people saw it. And it was just really wild because he quit completely after that. But what happened to him, as far as he was being attacked, basically, and what happened to him was, he said all of a sudden the fire popped really loud. He said something in the fire just made this loud popping noise. and it startled all of them. And then he said he just heard something say, "Run." And he got up and ran into the cabin, and they evidently couldn't pursue him in there. So he said he stayed in the cabin for, a long time, like days, and got drunk. I think he said that was the only way he could cope with, what was going on. And then he said, like, after so many days, he decided he was done with that, and he got out of there somehow. And I guess they'd left him alone by then. I don't know. But the whole thing was just really freaky sounding. And if you want to listen to it, he tells it a lot better than I do. And he had problems too, like heart problems, heart issues after that. And it was weird because the doctors, didn't know what had happened to him. They couldn't tell how this had occurred with his heart so quickly and all. It was really strange. And I know Chris had told me about this, and that I was like, man, you can't really make that up at all. And something happened. There's no question about that. And I give him a lot more credit than most people would, because I've heard this from somebody else too. That's the thing. I got this email about this, and I've heard this from someone else. The same thing. I was like, what's up with that? So that freaks me out. Another thing that's strange about Mark's case is he was very disoriented. He was so disoriented, like he couldn't remember how to, which, he had been under the influence too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dismissing that fact, that aspect of it, but I don't think that would cause him to not know how to work his cell phone and stuff. Like he just and forget the way to go to somebody's house, or because that happened. Like he forgot how to get to Chris's house, I think it was. It was just weird stuff. Weird stuff happened to him, and it kept happening to him afterward. And he tells all about it in that interview. So I'll see if I can find it and put it in the description. I don't mind doing that, and you guys can check it out there, and I'll be sure to label it so you know which one it is. But it's really weird stuff, and it does make me wonder, okay, is something going on with this? Is this really the way things are? I don't know. I can't answer that, but it just seems like it can't be a coincidence. It has to be more than just a coincidence or something, there has to be something to it. If I'd heard about it from two different sources, I was like, there's something up with that. There has to be. It's just too weird. You don't hear about something that strange and that specific from two different things years apart. It's just two different people years apart. It's weird. Weird. Well, there was this picture, okay? And this gets me, like, even more curious about all this. Okay, I knew this guy who did Sasquatch research. He'd go out and investigate things and all that. And I don't remember if he had taken this picture or if it was one that someone else had taken that we knew. But anyway, regardless of who took it, it was there and it existed. There was this picture, okay, of this weird contraption that was out in the national forest around here. Kind of off, miles from where I live, but not that far. And anyway, it was like this weird rope thing that was like tied. It almost looked like a trap of some sort. And it was like tied up with like some kind of pulley like system. It was like it went up and it looked like over a branch, and it had something hanging down. It was like boards in it or something. I had no idea what that would be for, and neither did he. Well, in this picture, this guy thought it was so strange, and I want to say that they were out there where there had been a UFO sighting of one landing, actually, but I don't know. I could be wrong about that. That may have been what they were out there for, but I think that specific site was supposed to be where it happened. Anyway, this weird thing up in the trees, I don't know what it was, the rope thing and all that. It was just I couldn't figure out a purpose for it, and neither could the guy that showed it to me. I mean, it was weird. Well, in that picture, they were like, didn't know what it was, so they took a picture of it. Well, in the picture, this thing shows up, this figure. It looks like a humanoid type figure that shows up right over in I want to say it was like in the bottom by a tree, like kind of below where, like right where this rope was coming up from, like I guess the point that it was tied at. There was something down there right by it, and it looked like a person almost with a black hood on and like black whatever clothes and a white like face, and it looked like it had these skull looking eyes, like just big kind of like shaded holes where the eyes were. And it was in this picture, and you could see it clearly. Like, he showed it to me. I was like, whoa, what is that? And then when I got these emails, I remember talking to him and telling him, dude, you remember that picture that you showed me? Well, this guy sent me an email describing something that looked exactly like what was in that picture. I was like, that is too strange. So there's all these coincidences now, all these correlations that are leading me to believe there is something actually to this, okay? That's the thing. I can't dismiss it. I cannot say this is not true because I've seen this weird stuff. I've heard it from different sources. I've seen actual photo evidence of this, and these come from guys that can't doctor photos, okay? Trust me. I'm just saying, like, they're not people that are out to hoax anything. They had nothing to gain by doing that. So it was like, I'm pretty sure, without having been there, that this was legitimate. And they said they didn't even see it out there. I mean, it could have been out there and they not noticed it, because when you're taking a picture, you're, kind of involved in other things and other thought processes, and you can easily miss something. I've done it. But, I think this thing might have not really shown up until a certain point. I don't know. But it was there. I saw this figure in the picture standing like by a tree, and it looked just like what Mark had described and what the dude that sent me the emails had described. Looked exactly like it. So what was that? Okay, if any of you guys know anything about this kind of stuff with this type of entity or creature or whatever it is, please let me know. Leave me a comment. Tell me about it. And come on the show and tell us about it. I don't care. If you want to, if you have some knowledge on it, I'll be glad to let you come on and tell about it. But anyway, it's strange, man. It really gets me thinking. All right. That's all I really can say about it. But, I mean, it's happening to other people, and this could be something that goes along with the missing 411. I mean, it could be a part of it. I don't know. I mean, I know I've explored the little people idea because there are so many documented disappearance, there's so much documentation saying that in all these cultures that document the little people, saying that they will abduct people. They will straight up take people. It's like a known thing. So, I mean, it's weird. And this is another thing, I have a feeling that there's more than one thing happening when it comes to the whole missing 411 phenomenon, the whole disappearances and all that. I think there's more than one thing happening here. I don't know what any of it is, but I do think that there's more than just one cause. I'm pretty sure about that. I don't know if they all work together or if it's all a separate campaign for everybody. I don't know. But something happens. And this stuff, I'm not saying that what happened to Mark is exactly what happens to people, but I mean, everything that he described kind of goes along with what was happening to other people. But you have like these survivor stories, missing 411 people who have been found after 6 or 7 days out in the wilderness, and they can't tell you anything about how they got there or where they were or anything. I mean, they don't remember anything. That's what's weird about all of it. But another thing, Chris from the Trail to Bigfoot, he's one of those guys that I've always liked him, and he's always been really straight up. He's not one of those people that's just out there. He's a pretty level-headed person, and he he was telling me about some things that happened to him after Mark had told him about all this, or after Mark had his incident. Chris had told me about some things that had happened to him in his house that kind of freaked him out about this, and I was like, I mean, just you got to be careful with this stuff, for one thing, because you're dealing with things you don't fully understand. None of us do. And I don't care how much time you've spent around them. You've spent that much time around a certain one or a certain few or whatever, and they may be completely different from the next few that you encounter. Okay? Like, you got people, humans, who worship the devil and would do a human sacrifice and stuff like that. But you've also got people who are good and want to just, help people and do good things. And that's the way that you have to look at it with all intelligent, highly intelligent beings. You have to understand that there's a diversity. There's going to be that divide. Okay? Some people are going to choose the darkness, and some people are going to choose the light. And some people are going to straddle the line. That's just how it goes with intelligence. You make up your own mind, you have your own free will, and you do your own thing. And there are rogue Sasquatch, just like there are rogue people. Homeless people, hobos, whatever, going around, wandering free, nobody, no home, no nothing. There's all kinds of diversity when it comes to that stuff. And you're not sure exactly who you're messing with, because you don't know their story, and you can't Google them. You can't figure it out like you can a lot of the time with people. So you're always taking a chance when you interact with something you don't know about. And that has happened. There's been some things that have happened to certain people who have done that stuff. And it has not turned out well for them. Like, as far as things happening around their house and stuff like that. And it always seems to be when they feed the wrong ones. That seems to be a recurring pattern with the things that happen, like the ones that will come up and slap your house and terrorize you and all this, I mean, it seems like it starts with gifting, like it starts with them being fed, people leaving out stuff for them, food and all that stuff. And some people leave out a smorgasbord, for them out there. And they're going to get pissed when you take that away. You're giving free stuff. I mean, it's just like a country. If people are used to getting free stuff, you take it away, they're not going to be happy about it. They're going to let you know. And that's the way it is with them and gifting. And that's why I've always been very, I'm not going to say selective about it, but I've just done it. I haven't done it a lot. I've done it gradually, here and there sporadically. I don't make it a routine. I don't ever do anything like that. Like, I haven't gifted anything in years. That's the thing. You don't do it all the time. You might do it as just an offering or a gift, like it's meant to be. But there's a difference between gifting and feeding, okay? When they become reliant on what you're doing, that's the problem. That's when it's not like building a friendship. That's when it's building a dependency. So you cannot go and gift constantly with food and expect to have a good outcome. Everybody I've known that has had good outcomes with gifting does it ever so often. They're not the people who do it constantly, like every night or every other night even, or every third night. It doesn't even matter. The ones that I'm talking about, like myself and others that I know, who have always had good levels of interaction, nothing crazy, nothing scary, nothing, it's like nothing like that has ever happened to me. I know other people that it has, but they're the ones who it seems like they got a little carried away with the feeding and stuff. Okay, they're going to become dependent on that. Anything will become dependent on that, especially if they're intelligent. Yeah, I'm going to go over here where it's easiest to get this. Well, then you cut them off and, of course they're not going to like it. Well, there's some people I know personally who have had this happen to them, where they had adverse reactions when it came to stopping the activity or whatever. Like they ended up getting activity that they didn't bargain for, basically. And it picked up quicker than they ever thought, and it freaked them out a good bit. And then when they weren't supplying the stuff, things started getting broken, things started happening, noises and stuff started hitting their house, and, it just goes like that. Well, anyway, here recently, I have seen another story about that. I'm not going to get into it and say anything about it, really, except for there was a picture of the Sasquatch actually in the house. And I have seen it, and it is crazy. It's highly detailed. And it was released on a video. And I'll ask my friend whose channel it is if they mind if I link it, and I'll link it for you guys if you want to see it. But it's at the end of the video, and it's a picture that was taken with a trail cam of a Sasquatch in someone's kitchen. Basically just sitting there going through stuff because, and he explains it on the video, they had been doing the gifting thing, and it seemed to have gotten out of hand. That leads me on to this point where everything that looks like a Sasquatch may not be a Sasquatch, okay? Like, they may not be the same being that you're seeing, okay? There's other things that look like them, that don't act like them, that don't think like them, that don't want the same things as them. There are other things out there. And that's what we all have to remember. If you look at like aliens and stuff like that, ET races and things, there are a lot of them that are depicted just like we are, human. They look human. And even ones that don't look human are usually humanoid. So or hominid or whatever, there's definitely some similarity. Well, that's kind of how it is with them. You're going to have ones that don't do what the other ones do. The ones that don't, they are not the same thing. They're not the same being. That's the thing. I mean, they may look the same, or they may look similar enough to where you can't even tell. But I know that if you look at that theory, and I'm not saying any of this is absolute truth, because I don't expect anyone to believe what I say completely. I just put this stuff out there, and I want you guys to think about it and consider it, and know that it is a possibility of being completely true. I know what I know, and I'm not here to change anybody. I just want you all to get every angle of things and think about every angle of things. But anyway, if you look at that alien, the different races of ETs and stuff like that, you're going to see that there are things that look completely like the Sasquatch. They're said to be things that look just like them, but they're not. They're completely different beings. I'm not sure that they don't have something to do with them, but I don't think they're all the same. And I can tell you, I never thought I would see some of the things I've seen. And that includes seeing that I had actually found a video that looked just like that light that I always talk about that Brian and I saw in the sky out here one night that blinked, different colors and pulsated. Like every time it had a pulse, it was a different color. I mean, it was really pretty. But there was something that came down beside it. And it was that upside down semicircle that was nearly transparent. And I'm not sure that it wasn't completely transparent or cloaked in some way, because I only saw it when it passed by that blinking light. So it may have been the actual ambience from the light illuminating the transparent object, because it was only like a shade lighter than the night sky, and that was the only time I'd seen it, when it passed by where the light would have been shining from the thing we were already looking at. Well, that happened right over one of the areas that is like the most active out here. It happened right over it. And that got me really thinking, like, what are the odds of that being going down out of the sky right there over that? I mean, it's strange, man. Strange things happen. You will see strange things when you start looking at this kind of stuff and start dealing with it and, getting into it. And the further you get into it, the stranger it gets. The weirder stuff you see is. And it doesn't ever stop. I mean, the more you go, the weirder it gets, and that's all you can ever really say about it. Because it never gets any easier to understand, for one thing. And there's always more to it when it comes to this whole thing. I mean, the whole paranormal aspect of our lives. It's just ongoing, and it's so extensive that nobody will ever understand everything about it. I mean, there's too much to know. I don't know. I mean, I've had friends, though, that have had problems with Sasquatch, and there are people out there who can help you with them. I know some of these people who know how to help you with them, and one of the strange things is that I've noticed, when you have a problem with them, if you actually start bringing religion into it, it's often very effective. And that's one thing that I've been very surprised at. So, that's another thing, like the Nephilim thing. A lot of people look at them as Nephilim. And I'm not going to say the Nephilim don't exist, but I do think that they are separate beings. I do think those are two separate entities completely. The Squatches and the Nephilim, I think, are not the same thing. I think there's several things that look like that out there. I really, really do. And there's things that have led me to this, belief system of mine, but I'm not going to get into those. Anyway, I know I kind of started talking about missing 411 and then got off on this crazy Sasquatch tangent, but I wanted to tell you guys about this because I'd been wanting to talk about it before and I just hadn't gotten around to it. But this email thing had really freaked me out when I heard this story of Mark's. And then I remembered seeing that picture of this thing that we didn't know what it was. And it matched the description that both Mark and that guy that sent me the email gave of these other entities that the Sasquatch will assist. And I mean, even Mark told of them living underground and like just all these similarities, all these things that parallel what that email said. So it really makes me wonder, guys. It really does. So if any of you guys have any information on that, please just let me know, and I'd like to discuss it with you. Just write it in a comment and or email me if you want. paranormalrushhour@gmail.com. Anyway, I'm gonna go, guys. I think I've talked about this long enough, and I just want everybody to know I really appreciate you watching, and I appreciate all my new subscribers. Thank you so much, and I'll be back with you guys really soon. My friend who I've been talking to this guy a lot, who's the C5 experiencer. So it seems like he's probably going to be a really interesting person to have on, and so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm gonna cement a time with him soon. So I'll let you guys know about that. I've got some more paranormal videos for you coming up, so those will be pretty cool. And it's probably all you got to look forward to right now. I'm just kidding. I really appreciate y'all watching though. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about all this. And I'll be back with you guys really soon. Till then, stay safe and take it easy.